Tyler Kerba with Go Edit Graphics. If you are an athlete or a coach that sees the value in high quality graphics, go check out our Twitter at Go Edit Graphics. We would love to talk to you about our graphics platform where you can create high quality graphics in under 2 minutes. This week we have an interview adding on to our recruiting series with Coach J.R. Sandlin. He is on Twitter. He's at JR_Sandlin from Jacksonville State. This was a great interview. We talked about recruiting, talked about how he identifies players, just steps us through, takes us through the steps of his recruiting process, how he is coming into contact with those recruits in this crazy year of 2020. And he also shares very practical advice of what athletes, what coaches should be sharing on social media. It's a great interview. Would love to know your feedback and anybody else that you would like for us to interview. If you could send us a DM, man, we would appreciate that. I hope you enjoy the interview. All right, so from Jacksonville State University, I've got Coach J.R. Sandlin. Right now he's serving as executive head coach, also coaches the tight ends and is the recruiting coordinator. Be sure and follow him on Twitter at JR_Sandlin. He's a great follow. Coach, thanks for joining us. Can you just thanks. Can you just give us a brief history of where you're from originally and then how you got to Jacksonville State?
Yeah, I've been here at JSU the last seven seasons. We've had obviously great success in those last 6 seasons. This being the 7th season, won 5 conference championships, 5 playoff appearances, almost 60 games in those 6 seasons. So it's been a really great ride here. Before that, I was in the recruiting world where I was at Notre Dame in 2013. Before going to Notre Dame, I was director of recruiting at Tennessee for about 4 months. And before that, I was at the University of Alabama from 2010, 11, and 12, where I got my start. And before that, I was at high school helping kids with their recruiting. So you've probably heard the name Quan Sander. He's at the 49ers. I handled his recruitment when he was a sophomore. Bobby McCain, who's in the NFL, helped handle his recruitment, and several other guys that Trey Elston and some of the guys really helped them. But before that, I was at the University of Central Florida, where I played football, and my career ended, blew out my knee. So then I started working in the compliance and recruiting department. So I learned a whole lot information about just recruiting. And basically when I went to the high school, I took everything I knew in recruiting and flipped it into promotion, because obviously you're trying to recruit, but someone needs to promote what I'm trying to buy or what I'm trying to do. So that's kind of just a quick history. I'm originally from Tuscaloosa, Alabama. And that's where I grew up and played high school ball.
Very good. You've had a lot of a good history and a good diverse range of experiences. One of the things that I've noticed that sets you apart from a lot of people, just as I followed you on Twitter just this past month, is you're so focused on education, and specifically with your recruiting #recruiting 101. I saw a post by somebody that you had a call with, an athlete that you had a call with, and it was incredible. It was things like, hey, what should I put on my Zoom video? It was an offensive lineman that said, be sure and have a video of you pulling and of you double teams and of you getting to the second level.
He took some really good notes. I love that. Wow. I was impressed with the detail amount of notes that he took. I was like, job well done.
Yeah, that was incredible. It's so evident that you are focused on educating recruits. Where did that start? Or have you always been focused on education, or where did that transformation come of focusing on educating the recruits?
Well, I've always been focused on helping people. I think that's ultimately what it's about at the end of the day. I mean, how do you serve people? Well, you help them how you can, and with the knowledge that you have and the expertise that you have, and you pay it forward. I mean, that's one thing I always tell the kids when I give them help, or when they call and stuff like that. I'm always telling them, pay it forward to someone else. You don't have to thank me. Thank God that you came across my path, that you got information, but more importantly, pay it forward to someone else and help another human, because at the end of the day, we are the hands and feet of Christ, and we should be helping each other in that capacity. This past year, coaches were not able to go, Division I coaches were not able to go on the road recruiting. So I started this deal where I told kids that they could call in on Thursdays. And what they did was they sent emails in, and we would pick just different kids across the country. A lot of kids that, you normally wouldn't recruit from Jacksonville, Alabama. We've talked to kids from, Wyoming and California and Washington and Arizona, and a lot of kids that are West Coast, but also New Jersey and Maine and Delaware. A lot of kids, like, again, because when you're focused on recruiting, you're normally here, you're looking at a 5-hour radius, because that is what your roster is literally made up of. And you have to say, can I get this kid in this area, or do I have to go out wide? But really, it was all about, since you're not able to see us, call in and let me help you, because again, you don't know what you don't know. And there's so many great questions out there that a lot of recruits have. A lot of recruits don't have the answers to, and they don't have a source to even go to and even ask. So I've tried to build that platform where it's just, again, like you said, educate, help, serve, honor, respect, give something back, because again, at the end of the day, that's what life's about. And if you have expertise and you do have knowledge and you don't share that expertise and that knowledge, and you're trying to hold it all to yourself, well, I think that's a prideful act, because again, at the end of the day, I'll die, and I want to make sure we pay it forward to whoever needs it. So again, we're helping people, and at the end of the day, they're helping each other and always paying it forward.
Very good. Yeah, that's something I've noticed very evidently, and so yeah, just thank you for that. Thank you for encouraging people to do that. I mean, what a great example that you've set. Now, specifically for your job as recruiting coordinator, you not being able to host. I mean, you're not able to host athletes on campus. You weren't able to host camps. I don't know if y'all normally held a camp, but what is that? How has that changed? How you identify your prospective recruits, and then how has that changed how you've connected with them just through the recruiting process?
Well, when you think about the recruiting process, it starts with identifying, then it follows by evaluating, followed by marketing, and then customer service. Those are the 4 cores in recruiting. It's practically the 4 cores in sales as well. You identify your customer, evaluate your customer, market to your customer, and obviously when they come to buy, you give them great customer service. So I think the one thing that's hurt is that customer service aspect, where you don't get to engage and you don't get to invite them into your home. You don't get to show off what you have. You don't get to sell all those things. It really hasn't hurt the marketing aspect that much, because so much of it's driven now on social media. And then we're still writing letters to those kids and encouraging them on their games and things like that. Really with the identification and the evaluation process, the identification part's kind of been a little bit more difficult, because there's not having camps has hurt because there's so many times every year when we've gone out to all these different camps across the country, and including ours, you would get names. And that's one of the things you have to do. You're continuing to get what? New names in the database. New names to do what with? Evaluate. And once you have those new names, it turns into the evaluation. Clearly, we look at all those highlight films that are sent and people have linked to their huddles. However, those are really highlight films. You really would want a cut up film, which shows more of your athletic ability, more of your skill set, because that highlight or cut up is only a teaser. It is only the preview for us to then go watch what? Game film. The NFL scouts watch game film. They don't come in here asking for a highlight on any of our players. They all watch game film, because the game film is your true resume. It is the true story of your game. The big eye in the sky, which is the camera, does not lie. And whatever you're producing on that film is going to be a direct reflection of who you are, because it's you doing it. So, I mean, it kind of goes into that, where the identification process has changed a little bit, because you don't have as many names being out and about, being able to put eyes on them, because you do want to see what their size looks like. You want to be able to see, because we're talking about high school kids, and when they come to college, we're expecting them to grow. We're expecting to be, you think, I'm trying to put mass on individuals, and you're trying to put that putty, on the shoulders and chest, maybe back, thighs, whatever it is, basically where all the pads protect you. I mean, that's where you're ultimately trying to put the mass on for those guys. So not being able to see those people live and have a good idea, and start being able to see, oh, this person is this size, he could potentially be this, and not seeing any of those individuals live to be able to see their skill set, that's been a little bit difficult. But again, you got to remember, coaches are going to watch. They're going to watch game film. They're going to watch game film. And a lot of kids have done a really good job, not necessarily doing workout film, because I think a lot of kids get confused. What is workout film and what is skill tape film? So many times I've seen tons of videos of people bench press and maybe doing pull-ups. That's great, but that's not selling skill set. And what is skill set? You're really focusing on change of direction, burst, acceleration, lateral ability, real cone drills, quickness, where you can actually still see the specific skills that are required that you must have for that position. That's all different between the line, the big skill, and the skill. But if you're doing that type of workout film in a skill set form, you're going to have a lot better opportunity to be evaluated, because that's the same type of drills that you're doing when you come to the football camps. It's the exact same type of drills they're doing at the NFL Combine. So if they can gather those type of drills and do that workout film, and that's one thing I've shared with many of the kids that are not having football this fall in their states, do those workout skill set films, because it still gets the opportunity to evaluate what? Athletic ability.
And that's so helpful. That's yeah, that is so helpful for those athletes. Thank you for sharing that. What how important is it for these athletes? I mean, they can share these skill videos, they can share some of the things. How important is it for athletes to be active on social media? Is that something that can really boost their, I mean, maybe be part of that identification process? Is that something that can help them get identified, or is it really reaching out personally to those coaches? What would be your thoughts on that?
I think two parts of it. One, you hold the pen to your story. So social media is doing what? You're getting to tell your story when you get any type of accolade, any type of new offer. Man, I mean, trust me, think about humans. Humans love what they don't have, right? So when I'm on social media and I see John Doe got an offer from somewhere, I might be looking at that person because I'm like, who's that? I don't know who that person is. And it raises the question. And anything that raises the question, and more importantly, builds your story, because again, on social media, you're building your story, but you're also building your brand, and you're allowing that to get out there more and more. And the more they know, the more they can look at you. It's like this: when you go fishing, you throw what out? Bait. More bait you throw, better chance you get back more fish. And I think about that type of perspective of it. Do we look at those kids that link those films to you, the at me? And absolutely, we look at those. I think we focus more on right away. Like, I'll tell you this, I focus more on those kids that are in that 5-hour radius. So we're right here in Jacksonville, Alabama. So I'll look at those Alabama, Georgia, Tennessee, Panhandle of Florida, and some of the Mississippi kids right away, because that's my driving distance, and I can get to those kids within that pond. When it gets out further, I'll probably look more at a position where I'll look at a tight end further away in all those places. Do I personally look at all those other positions further away? Not necessarily, because I do have to hold a lot of more clout in my position, because at the end of the day, as a position coach, you better have good players. That is. I really do think the social media game has really increased and helped, but I think it's also telling their story, because again, when John Doe picks up one offer and he tweets about that, oh, picked up my second offer, third offer, or it's great talking to coach whoever today, oh man, he has interest, and it's starting to tell that story. And what does it do to the human being? Builds interest. And if you can use your social media platform to build interest, because that's ultimately what you're trying to do, because the end goal is what? Trying to get to a school, to play at a university or on a college football team. That is ultimately the goal, and the key is to build that interest and use those platforms to reach out to coaches, and also to create that intrigue where they do reach to you.
Yeah, that's good. And how can you had some experiences quite a bit in with high schools. How can high school coaches help build that interest? What should high school coaches be doing, whether it be on social media or just contacting coaches? What should a high school, maybe it's just a high school coach, or maybe they're a specific recruiting coordinator for that high school. What should they be doing?
Absolutely. Great question. That's exactly what I did at Oxford High School. We did not have social media like that. We're talking about 2009, not the driven amount. So what's the key? Persistency. I mean, I do not know how many times I would resend email. And it's coming from a coach. So now that coach is what? He is validating what he sees, but more importantly, he's validating what he's selling. And when it's coming from that coach, that persistency, and more importantly, coaches, high school coaches, have relationships with what? College coaches.
Right.
So he goes back to that relationship, where I might not have a relationship with the player he's trying to sell, but I have a relationship with you. And having relationships is a huge part, because again, do we always just want to hire off the resume? No, we want to hire based off, this person, and you're putting your stamp of approval. You're saying this is a person. So again, I would go back to the persistency is a huge key. And I remember calling the secretaries, calling the coaches, leaving messages, and it's over and over, and never getting a bad attitude towards it, because at the end of the day, who are you doing it for? You're doing it for them, to help them have a better life, to have them have a better setup, to give them an opportunity, and keeping that perspective and have that at your very heart, at the root, because again, you're doing what? You're giving, you're serving, you're honoring, you're respecting the people that you're trying to get in that place of position to go on to that next level. And I would always keep them and encourage coaches, don't get discouraged if you don't hear right away. I mean, I know coaches get thousands of emails, hundreds of calls. Keep doing what you're doing because it does not go unnoticed.
That's good. And what about specific for social media? How important do you think social media is for, let's just say Twitter, or maybe it's a different platform, but how important is that for a high school coach to be active on that and to share information? We know some high schools have specific recruiting Twitter pages. Is that helpful for you, or what's your perspective on that?
I think it is helpful because, again, what you're asking the player to tell his story, you're asking the high school to tell what? Their story. If you're not at the end of the day, if you're not sharing your story, who is? If you're not sharing, if you're not speaking your story, who is? And you're only having the opportunity on all these platforms that are free, Instagram, Twitter, all these platforms now that are free, and you're getting to share your story. Because at the end of the day, we're all stories. We're all human beings we all have stories. And the more you see that out there, of even a high school Twitter selling their kids, man, Johnny had a great game, had 100 yards receiving, 4 catches, 2 touchdowns. Wow. That's just, again, helping your player story, more importantly, your school story. And again, it's just building that rapport. And then if you consistently see it, it's marketing at the end of the day. You're consistently seeing this kid in the updates and the information. I mean, if it was me now doing Twitter, I mean, every day you should be, especially if coaches are interested in your school and recruiting kids, they're going to be eyeing that information because they'd love to see the workout footage. They love to see the growth development. They love to see early morning workouts, drill tape, all those different aspects of the guys that are the guys that you're trying to sell. Because, I mean, any of that footage is great footage because, again, when you're looking and evaluating tape, you're not just watching game film. You're watching a lot of times that workout film. And you love to see that workout film. When I see a kid let's just use a lineman, when you see him dunk a basketball or do a 360 and it was on social media, you know how many times we've pulled those clips out and said, look at this. This is athleticism. This is explosion. This is what you're looking for. So I would keep those things in mind because you're only helping enhance the story of your prospects. And I think that is what's it's a great tool to help enhance and promote the story of your prospects to, again, help them get the best possible opportunity. And the more information you have, the better it possibly will be.
That's great. Well, thanks for the time. Oh, man, we really appreciate it. I have about 100 more questions, so maybe we can connect again sometime in the future.
Sure,
but man, we appreciate this. I know we'll share your Twitter at J.R_Sandlin. Is there anywhere else that people should look to find out more about you?
You can look at Instagram. Actually the DMs are open on Instagram. They were not open on Twitter because it's just so high volume, but the DMs are open on Instagram. So there's more welcome to send film and questions to there. And if you're obviously if you're a 2022 or 2021, I can respond. But no, we're going to have other opportunities coming up where I'm going to open up my phone line, just the office, as soon as the season's over, and just maybe for 2 hours, I'll just be sitting here taking calls to, again, help assist in the recruiting process, because it is, again, at the end of the day, you can't have football without what? The recruit. The recruit then turn what? Player. And at the end of the day, we can't have football without people. So, again, it's all about serving, honoring, respecting, and giving back to people.
Man, that's great. Hey, I appreciate it, Coach.
Yes, sir, Todd.
Yes, and yes, and anybody that's listening to this, go follow Coach Sandlin, and it's absolutely incredible. We thanks for the time.
Yes, sir. Be great. Take care.